With Mario Maker being so popular, do you think a similar concept with Zelda would work? Thanks.
No. Super Mario Brothers is a quick, twitchy experience. Platforming, you can run through levels of Super Mario Brothers in 20 seconds, 30 seconds or less. Legend of Zelda doesn't have that. The closest you can say is let's do a dungeon run and run through a dungeon. It doesn't have the same ebbs and flows in terms of gameplay mechanics as running and jumping, and getting power-ups as it does, running through a dungeon in Legend of Zelda. And now, I was not saying it couldn't be interesting as like a one-off or part of a Zelda game, but I just don't see it happening. Super Mario Brothers is sort of like the perfect game for Mario for that to have happened. Like, if you look at the few times they tried on the NES, especially with the NES black box games, you have Mach Rider, Excite Bike, and Wrecking Crew, and no one cares. No one really did that much experimenting with them.
No.
Because they weren't the quick.
Excite Bike was the one that people messed with most, and then when they realized you couldn't save them, they were like, what the fuck? My opinion on that is, yes, it could work. However, look, like Pat said, Mario is snappy. Mario Maker doesn't even have the ability to make worlds yet, which I think they should add.
Oh, they don't yet?
No.
You can't connect different stages?
You can't connect. And they should, but what makes Mario Maker work is that it's easy, it's intuitive, and someone can slap something playable together very quickly and upload it. Doesn't have to be good, but as long as you can beat it, you can throw it up there. Things like a Zelda Maker do exist. I mean, RPG makers and action game makers have existed on computers forever. But there's a lot more detail and a lot more work. A lot of people would start, I think, with something like a Zelda Maker. I'm not saying you, listener, particularly, but in general, people would get very excited about it and start, and then fall off halfway through. Why? Because they didn't think the level design through enough.
What would it be? A whole world you create, or just a dungeon?
Well, I mean, whatever it would be. Even if it was just a dungeon, you're still talking about a lot more than a Mario level. If someone is making a Mario level and they realize their level design isn't coming together as well as they had hoped, they can kind of fudge it and take it in a new direction pretty quickly. You would have to scrap a whole lot of shit that you did in a Zelda game to do it. And it's kind of similar to my comparison when we did mention Mario Maker briefly in a previous podcast. It's why Mario Maker works out a little bit better, I think, in terms of people immediately jumping in than, say, Little Big Planet. Now, yes, Little Big Planet has millions of levels, but there's a lot more work involved and a lot more planning. You don't have... The best Mario Maker levels are ones that are planned out, but you don't have to do it. And either way you're doing it, you're still only talking a few hours of work.
Versus, I don't know how long it would create to create an entire Hyrule would take you 100 hours to do that. But
so
to create a dungeon would probably even take... and plus, what the hell is a good dungeon in Legend of Zelda? Does it mean, like, you have to get an object in order to continue... an item in order to continue another area? Like, what does it even mean? No one in their head could wrap their mind... Like, a cool Mario level, it's just fun. You can run through real quickly. You wouldn't figure out if a Legend of Zelda dungeon is good or not until 15 minutes in, and you realize it sucks.
Yeah, you have to have the idea, then you have to lay out the idea, and then you have to playtest the idea and be like, this is a bad idea.
Yeah, then you gotta realize, the only way to make this fun... make it like Death Mountain, where there's a whole bunch of fucking whacked out passageways leading somewhere else in the level, which is a dead end, and that's not fun. No. That's just frustrating.
So yes, it could work, but would it work on a mass appeal level? No, I don't think it would.